Misha here, and for whatever reason, I just felt like talking about Makarovs again, and found a little ammo, so why not? Last time, part 1, really just covered the Makarov PM, Soviet era, East Germany too, Bulgaria, China. This time we're going to look at variants and other guns that are chambered for 9x18, but that aren't Makarovs. So here's my Russian again, just as an example piece. We'll pull out from time to time for comparison. Just as a quick reminder, it's all steel, 8-shot, double, single action. I know back in the day we were all used to seeing Makarovs in the store, but they've slowly kind of disappeared over the years, so hey, you never know. The barrel's about 3.8 inches, overall length about 6.3, 6.4, and it weighs about 26 ounces unloaded because it is all steel. And we talked about where those are made. And, well, where to begin? And, of course, first, as always, if you please could like, share, and subscribe. Also, in the comments, share your own Makarov stories. And if you'd like to help support the channel even more, you can always check out the link to Patreon or do a super thanks here on YouTube. With that, we're going to talk about Hungary. But actually, not this pistol. Not quite yet. Military Makarov. Held open. Rather, we need to begin here. This little rig. It's not exactly the right holster, but it fits it really well. This little doo-wopper. Now this is an SMC 981, but it's essentially the export version of our first FEG 9x18 gun. But it is in no way based on the Makarov. Rather, any similarities they have, there's two reasons. Either the fact that they share the cartridge 9x18 PM, or that they're both based on the Walther PP and PPK series. Because after World War II, FEG, Budapest, Hungary, produced quite a number of PPK clones, even a little bit of improvements to them, known as the 48M. And of course, those are mostly in 7.65, but some were in 9x17, 380. So that was kind of their basis. 1950s, obviously 9x18 comes into service, and it starts to become a Warsaw Pact standard in the late 50s, early 60s. One of the first nations to start developing their own versions for it is FEG in Hungary. And this gun here was kind of the first of the first. Around 1957, 1958, the Hungarian National Police approached FEG. They want a new service, compact, for like plainclothes, criminal investigators, handgun that fires the, at the time, still quite new 9x18 cartridge. Certainly more powerful than 7.65. Yeah, all respect to, the prototype of Q from James Bond. 32 caliber isn't exactly like throwing a brick through a plate glass window. 9x18 gives a little more oomph. So the police wanted it, but they needed it small. The RK59 is what FEG came up with. RK is basically police handgun. And they made it small, like the PPK. Had a 3.4-inch barrel, giving it an overall length of really about 6.5 inches. Pretty commensurate with the Makarov here. 6-shot mag, so shorter grip. Notice it has a Browning style mag release. Since it is based on the PPK, it uses the same decocker, trigger system, all that. Has the same last round hold open without an external release control. So you got to drop your mag. Curvy. So the big deal with the guns here was FEG tried out an alloy frame. With the RK59, it was basically just pure aluminum, just with very little modification. And at first, the police were happy because this was 19 ounces. Almost a half pound lighter than the Makarov PM. And about the same overall dimensions, a little bit shorter barrel, but that's because the mechanical section back here is just a little bit longer. And so they started ordering them. And then they found problems. That fancy aluminum alloy frame was having very early galling, smudging of parts, warping of the rails, and just outright cracking. Look, 9x18 is hard enough on any just blowback gun. But early alloy types, yeah, it was pretty bad. Very much so that FEG pulled these out of production in the first year or two. And the police would use them for a little bit longer, but as they would start to show signs of wear, they would be retired out. I should also mention, like this one, they did anodize the alloy frame. It would look a lot like this, except it didn't have the hump on the grip. Oh yeah, always comfortable. No release, but did work. I'm able to shoot this one because of what came next, known as the R61. They essentially reworked the chemistry for the alloy, adding 0.1% titanium, and just kind of reworking with some knowledge, introducing it in a surprise in 1961, and the police again went for it. Same length of barrel, same 6-shot mag, no problems there. And they would buy these in much greater numbers. How many of each were made? I don't know that anyone knows a real number. A few, 10, 20, maybe 30,000 of the 59. More of the 61. 50, 60,000, maybe more. But its production and service was pretty short-lived too. But not because it had any problems. But because this came along. The PA63, sometimes represented as PA63M. After the National Police kind of got what they wanted, the Army approached them and said, hey, can you take the R61 but stretch the barrel out to 100 millimeters, so about 3.9 inches, so slightly longer than a Makarov. And instead of a 6+1 capacity, we want at least 7+1. So effectively about a half-inch longer grip. And they did. I mean, it only took a little bit of time, and the PA63 was out, and it passed testing and trials. And those are really the two big differences. A little bit longer barrel, a new 7-shot mag. In fact, the mags are partially interchangeable. You can put the longer mag in down here, and so that shows you about how much more it was extended. Obviously, you cannot do the reverse because you wouldn't be able to get to the mag catch. So it's all the same there. Same titanium reinforced aluminum alloy frame. Now, for reasons, they did not anodize these, at least as a general rule. They were just left in kind of the polished white, giving it a very, very unique look. Now, the extra grip and barrel length did not add much in terms of weight. This is only about 21 ounces unloaded, so still 5 ounces lighter than the Makarov. Slightly longer barrel on the 63, slightly shorter grip. Still has the Browning style mag catch. The safety, decocker, all that's the same. The thumb rest grip is actually not something done for the US for once. The original versions made in the early and mid-60s had just flat grip panels on both sides, but they added the thumb rest because, well, that lightweight came at a cost. 9x18, some people find in the regular PM is snappy. Many found the PA63 to be slightly snappy, and therefore the R61, pretty unpleasant. So they were hoping that giving yourself a thumb rest to kind of suit your grip properly, kind of get you in the right position, would help. So that would appear. And that was kind of the major change. Otherwise, production would last up until 1990 or so, with very few changes. Now the big brother. Well, more comfortable. Here's its holster. Very much inspired by the Makarov one, but different. No cleaning rod, spare mag. The shorter version will fit in a normal holster. There were some compact ones made for it, but they're pretty uncommon. This is kind of that very light leather. Really like it. So the reason that the R61 was somewhat short-lived was they kind of discovered that the PA63 would suit not just the Army, but the police as well. You get extra shot, a little more comfortable grip, slightly barrel, and, for only 2 ounces more. So effectively, they quit buying R61s and just bought PA63s as time would go on. So National Police, a lot of the internal ministries and special forces, typical comm-block issue type gun. And there would be a small family. There was the AP, which was the AP 7.65. It was a 32 caliber version of this with a blued frame. And the ones I've seen for reasons had a steel, not alloy frame too. These started coming into surplus in the 90s. And I'm going to be honest, they weren't the most desirable. A lot of people didn't like. They really respected the quality of the aluminum, the lightweightness, but they had quite the reputation for, not having the highest standards. Like, you get some that worked great, and you might get others that were a little, And again, just not the most comfortable. As for these though, the SMCs, a little bit different path. The PA63s we got were all surplus because they had so many to share with us, so why not? But this version, based on the R61, came over, and the number I've found was around 3,800 were made. I don't know if they all came here or if that was across. That's for the SMC 918, the Makarov version. There was also an SMC 380, and a variant called the PMK 380. So these were produced up until about 2000 by FEG. Of course, they go out of business. And were basically commercial and/or police offerings, just because. But I like it. It's kind of hard to find these 6-shot mags, but they're out there, I suppose. I don't worry about shooting it either. The alloy frames on these are perfectly durable now. Though, the RK59s, I doubt anyone who owns one today would happily shoot it. It just seems kind of silly to me. And again, with this one, I have this holster that I for it. It's not exactly appropriate, but it holds it well. The pocket actually holds the spare mag perfectly without any extra room there. Kind of fits the theme. So that's Hungary. A lot of these would stay in police military service through the 1990s. They would first start to replace them with some Jericho 941s brought over from Israel. And then around 1996, they would start using some Hungarian high-power copies and clones. So the Army would start retiring the PA63. That's why we got so many surplus. And then the police would follow in the early 21st century, just as they kind of moved out of things. Perfectly good thing, and I really like FEG. And in a lot of ways, it's closer to the Walther compared to the Makarov. And I will say, too, it actually has probably a better safety. If you see, it moves the hammer when I move the safety. So it physically moves the firing pin, tilting it out of the way, not just putting up a mechanical block. So that's one area. They probably improved the safety from the original German gun. Double action is meh. Single is fine, but nothing to write home about either way. But a good solid defensive gun. And hey, they were very lightweight, but 6+1 or 7+1, not the best capacity in the world.